Hey guys, Mark here, and today we're going to take a quick look at the 2020 MacBook Pro. This is actually the first time I've ever bought a MacBook new. Before now, I've had the 2012, 2013, and 2014 MacBook Pro, but I bought them all used. I could have bought newer MacBooks in the past, but I never bothered to, mainly because of that terrible and unreliable butterfly keyboards. Thankfully, Apple has reverted the keyboard in the 2020 models back to the scissor switches, and they're so much better than before. There are basically two different kinds of new 13-inch MacBooks this year. One is just a simple refresh of last year's 8th gen Intel models with the new keyboards, and the other is a bit more of an extensive upgrade with Intel's 10th gen Ice Lake CPU, DDR4 memory, better cooling, and a bunch of other stuff. The MacBook I have plugged in behind me, though, is the base model, absolute cheapest MacBook Pro that you can buy from Apple's store. And I bought this one for a few reasons I'll get into later, but from all the testing that I've done so far, I'm really glad that I went with this version over the more expensive models. All the new 13-inch MacBook Pros this year have a nearly identical design as last year's models, with the exception that they're a slight bit thicker and a slight bit heavier to accommodate that new keyboard. Same 2560 by 1440 display with medium-ish thick bezels, same great trackpad, same 720p webcam, and same solid Apple build quality that stands out amongst other laptops. The more expensive models have some upgraded internals, but all the models, including this base model, get the escape key and inverted T arrow keys back. Compared to the MacBook Pros from 2016 to 2019, the new keyboard on this MacBook Pro is awesome. The keystrokes are much deeper and more satisfying to type on, and overall, it's genuinely a pleasure to use. It's not perfect though. I still prefer the keyboard on the older 2013 to 2015 devices, as those keyboards just had a bit more travel. I didn't care about the arrow key change as much because I didn't find the arrow keys on the butterfly keyboards to be all that bad, but the physical escape key being back is great. A lot of people found it annoying to have the escape key only present in the touch bar, given how many times you actually use that escape key in the run of a day. Like I mentioned earlier, the rest of this MacBook is mostly the same as last year. It's got an Intel 8th gen i5, 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM, but the minimum storage option has been bumped up to 256 gigabytes, which is nice. Given the fact that this is essentially last year's MacBook Pro with an updated keyboard, you're probably going to assume that I recommend buying the version with the new 10th gen Intel CPUs, but that's not exactly true. In fact, I think the base model is the laptop for most people. Unless you're going to be doing a lot of 4K video editing, 3D modeling, or some other form of high-performance workload, the 8th gen i5 is going to do just fine. In Geekbench 5, the base model got a score of 915 single-core and 3889 in multi-core. Fun fact, that actually beats out the i7 CPU in my top-end 2014 15-inch MacBook Pro. Even if you do want to do some light editing here and there, the base model can handle 1080p editing with ease in Final Cut Pro, and can also take 4K files if you're willing to drop that playback preview from high quality to high performance. Mind you, the single cooling fan in the base model ramps up to full speed, and the CPU does get pretty toasty under load. That's where the dual fans in the 10th gen models are going to have the advantage. In regular everyday tasks, the base model 13-inch flies through macOS without any issues. It plays back 4K videos from YouTube without any hiccups, and you can have 8 or 9 Chrome tabs open without it bogging down. I realize these are really simple tasks, but you'd be surprised by how many low-powered laptops can actually fail this test, and that's the tasks that most people use their laptops for a lot of the time. Alright, so what if you're a student looking to pick up a new laptop for school, but you want to do a little bit of light gaming on your downtime? Well, the 2020 13-inch is not really intended for that purpose, but if you're just playing some very light games like CSGO or Rocket League, it should have just enough power. I set the MacBook's resolution to half of native and ran all these games on medium in the hopes that it would hit the target 60 frames a second, and honestly, it did better than I expected for integrated graphics, but this is definitely not a gaming machine without an eGPU, and you shouldn't expect it to play any AAA titles with decent frame rates, even if you do drop all of the graphical settings. A lot of people seem to be saying that the new MacBook Air might be the way to go for a lot of people, but MaxTech actually did a great video covering this topic and why that might not be the case, and I'll link their video down below, but basically the gist of it is that the cooling on the MacBook Air is so inefficient that the CPU spikes to its thermal limits even in the most basic tasks like downloading a big file. The MacBook Pro doesn't have that problem. The only time this happens is when the laptop is under a pretty heavy load, and therefore it performs better in almost every circumstance. The base model MacBook Pro 13 still isn't what I'd consider cheap, especially for a fairly mid-range performer. It costs $1,300 US, which is a lot cheaper than the $1,700 10th gen model, but still isn't going to give you the best bang for your buck. If you're not stuck on using macOS, there are other options out there that will provide more value for your money, as long as you're fine with Windows 10. The Dell G5 SE looks like a great option for less, and you'll get a much faster AMD Ryzen 4800H CPU and an RX 5600M GPU, but you'll sacrifice things like build quality and weight in the process. For me personally, the MacBook Pro 13-inch is just my on-the-go laptop. I'll still use it for writing all my scripts at home or browsing YouTube videos or what have you, but for the more intensive tasks like video editing and gaming, I have my iMac and my custom gaming rig. In my case, the base model just makes sense, and if you're not someone who's gonna need a lot of power for your everyday tasks, just save your money and go with the base model. If you guys want to see a more in-depth review of this laptop, let me know in a comment down below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to support my channel. And as always, have a great day.